Hey there guys, Jarrett here, aka Sergeant Siage, back here with another video, and this actually might be the first video that goes up on the channel. I'm not quite sure yet. I don't know which order they're going to come out in, but we'll wait and see here. So today, we're going to be going over some of the best dupes of Creed's Aventus and Aventus Absolu. We're going to do both of them. I got a lot here to talk about. Now, there is a disclaimer here. I have bought these with my money. All of them. So, keep that in mind here. I don't have like any bias towards any of these brands or anything like that. This is just strictly which one is like the best to me, which ones would I personally recommend. Now, I will say this. I personally did not get into fragrances until last year, probably in the summertime. I had a few here prior to that here, but I would say like back in last July, I really started digging into it. I still watched content prior to that here, not like the TikTok content. No. I'm talking about like Gent Sense and I would say Jeremy Fragrance here in his prime aromatics and stuff like that. Those guys here do a really good job. So if you want to go watch them, I would say, yeah, go ahead, watch them here. Especially whenever it comes to Middle Eastern stuff, I would say aromatics here is really good, really informative. So we're going to go ahead and start off here. I'm going to start off with Absolu here. So let's go ahead and talk about Share Off the Club. And this is from Zamaya. Now, this, to me, even though on Fragrantica, it says it's close to the Creed, Aventus Absolu. I would say that this is kind of doing its own thing. To me, this is more of a very fruit medley, musk, oak mossy type of scent. I think it's kind of just off in its own thing, but in the vein of like Aventus Absolu or Aventus, somewhere like in between there. It kind of resembles another fragrance here we're going to talk about here because Zamaya is a subsidiary of Afnan. So keep that in mind. Now we'll do ratings out of 10 here. This is my second bottle of this. Like I literally just got this bottle a few days ago. So I'd give this a 9 out of 10 here. I think as like a standalone scent, it's really good. But whenever it comes to like comparisons to Aventus or Aventus Absolu, I don't think we can really, I don't even know if I would count this in there, but it is a good scent nonetheless. So I figured we'll throw it in the video. Now, the next one here we're going to talk about is one that I think is criminally underrated, and that is Dumont Nitro Intense, the completely blacked out bottle with the black cap. I think this is really good. I think this is more of a twist on Absolu. You definitely get like that Aventus style DNA, very pineapple heavy forward off that top. But the twist here is it's got leather in it. It's also got cognac here, so it's a little bit boozy. And it's also got plum. Like whenever the dry down starts happening, you start getting into that juicy plum. This stuff is good though. Not a lot of people talk about this one anymore here because I think this was released in like 2 years ago, 2023. But it is really solid, really good. Good longevity, good projection. Like this projects like a beast in that first hour and a half, especially. So I would be careful with the sprays on this, especially in the summertime, because this does have like the spices and stuff. So you can wear this one all year round, but I would go a little lighter on the sprays in the summertime. I'd give it a 9.25 out of 10. I literally just wore this last night for the first time in a while and was reminded, wow, this stuff is good. The next one we're going to talk about is a brand new release. So I've only had one wearing with this, but I'm actually pretty impressed by it. This is Zamaya's Abadi Saga. So this is the black bottle. There's two of them, two Sagas, or two Abadis. There's the Saga and then the other one's blue, and that is the Y Elixir dupe. The best way to describe this one is it is really smooth. It is soft, spicy, I would say here is the way that I would describe the smell here. There's only one citrus in the note breakdown, and that's bergamot. The best way I can personally describe this, and the one wearing that I had, is imagine Mont Blanc Explorer took the Aventus Absolu DNA and made it in that same sense, that like Explorer sense of an Absolu Aventus DNA. Very mass appealing, very good for the price point here. I would imagine this is going to drop down a little bit. I paid $40 for this. I would imagine once things like settle down and stuff, we're going to probably see it at around $30 to $35. So I can't give a definitive rating on this because I've only had one wearing with it. I think that's unfair to the scent itself and the juice because it hasn't had time to macerate. But if I had to give like a first impressions rating, I'd give it an 8.75 out of 10. I think this is really good for the price. I think once it macerates and it gives me, if it has like a little bit more longevity than what I got, which was about 6.5 hours, I would say this probably gets bumped up to a 9.5 because it's that good. The juice is that good. It smells clean, smells fresh. Like I said, a little bit spicy, but not over the top. And I like it a lot here. The next one we're going to talk about is probably my personal favorite whenever it comes to the Absolu DNA. And it's from a brand that not a lot of people talk about. They're kind of just up and coming. I think they're relatively new here. And that is Australia's Absolu Noir. Now, I don't know if you can see the dent and the juice here, but I've only had this bottle for about 3 months. And I wore it a lot in the cooler weather. And you can wear this in the summertime because it's a much fruitier take on the Absolu DNA. I would say this is a much fruitier, oak moss heavy vetiver style of the DNA essentially here. This does have a little bit of a twist in it because it has watermelon in the mid, which is a little bit different. It is a little bit different. So I do like that a lot here. I love this scent profile a lot. Personally, for the price point here, which like I looked this up right now because I probably have to get a second bottle of it with the dent. I don't think this is going to last me through the year. Let's just put it that way. This stuff is fantastic. I mean, it's $25 right now whenever I just looked it up. So personally, I would give this, and I think, is it pressurized? It is. It's pressurized. Whew. Yeah, that's some good stuff right there. This might be my scent of the day here a little bit later on, but this stuff is just solid. I don't even know how to describe it other than that it's oak moss dominant. So if you don't like oak moss, I would probably steer clear of this one. But personally, I would give this, if I had to give it an overall rating, I'd probably give it an 8.75 too. I think the only thing here that hurts this is the oak moss in this is like it is dominant on the oak moss. So, and I know some people just don't like oak moss, so it does get some points deducted from that. But other than that, this stuff is fantastic. 8.75. Now, personally, if I had to say, hey, you can only get one, we're going to talk about that one here in a second here because I don't have one, and that is Club de Nuit Prosciutto. I personally will probably not buy that bottle just because of the price point to value. You're only getting 55 ml. And secondly, I have gotten my nose on it. And to me, I don't know if it's the caramel note in there or if it's something else that's creating it, but in the dry down here, you kind of get this plasticky, I don't want to say like a burnt plastic. It's kind of just like a regular like plasticky smell to my nose. And I think it's the caramel note because that's in the base of it. Other than that, though, I think the scent is actually pretty good. I'd give, like, if I had to give it a rating, I'd give it like an 8.5. But I just can't see myself buying it because that dry down to me, and it's a little bit redundant in my collection here right now. So maybe if the price drops down a little bit, I'll pick up a bottle of it. But until then, like, I'm probably not going to wear it over any of these that I personally already have. So why would I bother getting it? But I did try it out here for a little bit. But if I had to get one or just suggest one to buy here for like an Absolu DNA or a twist, it would be Afnan Supremacy's Collector's Edition, 100%. This is a 10 out of 10. This sort of does this, and I'm beginning to realize there's a trend here because it just recently happened again. This is a subsidiary of Afnan. This has similarities to this. You can definitely tell that this is a more refined version of this. However, this is kind of off doing its own thing, whereas this, you can tell, is trying to be an Absolu Aventus style of DNA. You get a little bit more of the birch in this, personally, and a little bit of that, I don't want to say a smokiness, but a little bit more spices in this. This is beautiful, though. Pineapple forward in that opening, whereas the Share Off the Club is more of like a fruit medley. This is fantastic. I love this stuff. Like, I don't know if you can hear that. You can tell that there's juice missing from this. This was going on my hoodies and stuff for my wife during the winter time and stuff. She loves this scent too, so that's part of the reason why I like it too. But yeah, it is fantastic. 10 out of 10, second bottle worthy. Like, of the ones that I have here, these two are probably ones that I would say are like second bottle worthy. One, because this is cheap and the price point for what you're getting out of this is really good. And this just solely based on its quality, and it's also fantastic here. So that's a 10 out of 10. That's the one that I would personally recommend for like the Absolu line of DNA. Now we're going to talk about Aventus. So we're going to start off here with this one because a lot of people call this baby Aventus here, and I would agree. This was my second signature scent that I ever had, so this was like one of my favorites. I think this is done really well. I think it's blended really well. To me, with that bergamot in here, it almost gives you like a soapy, almost like a wood scented soapy nature with like a little bit of bergamot in there, a little bit of citrus. But this is fantastic. For what it is, I know a lot of people hated on this whenever it first came out, and I know a lot of influencers weren't very high on this because like a lot of stuff was already out at that time. But whenever I got into fragrances here last year, this was like my second signature scent. I wore this a lot late last summer and stuff, so this was fantastic. I would say for the higher heat, this does better in the higher heat, but probably a little bit less better in the winter time and the fall and stuff like that. I think this was more built for the spring and summer. But this stuff is really good for what it is. Now, would I give it a super high rating here? No, because a lot of people don't get good longevity out of this, and its projection is pretty moderate, I would say, average at best. So I personally give it a 7.7. However, the one benefit to this is at discounters, you can get 100 ml of this for like $47, $45, $50, which is relatively cheap. It's more expensive than anything else that we've gone over here because that's like in that $30 to $40 price range. But you can get a 200 ml of this for like $65. And whenever you start comparing that in the realm of some of these other ones, that's pretty good. Would I give it a high score though? Personally, no. I'd give it, like I said, I'd stick to that like 7.7 rating. I think it's Average, but good for beginners. Very good for beginners, I will say that. Next up here, we're going to talk about a twist here. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to talk about this one here. Now, this is brand new bottle. I've gotten my nose on this prior. Got it here in today. Oh, actually, I got it in yesterday, but this is brand new bottle. I actually ended up giving away about a 70% full bottle of this to a friend. So I picked up another one here, and it's Dumont's Nitro Black. Now, the best way I can describe this is, obviously, we're going to get to Club de Nuit Intense Man and that line. This is a more balanced version of like the EDP, I would say. A little bit more expensive whenever it comes to like price per ml, because I picked this bottle up literally a few days ago and it's still running around like $28 to $30. So keep that in mind too. But this is well blended. Anything that you get from Dumont is usually typically well blended. And it's very similar to the Intense. It is just a dialed down version of this. No spices or anything like that in here. A little bit of pepper. So you do have some spices, I should say. But very pineapple forward, very balanced, well balanced, and just an overall good scent. Decent longevity. You're not going to get like, I would say, the EDPs in Club de Nuit's longevity or performance. But I would say it's average, probably 7 to 8 hours. And that's going to be it. About 6 hours until it becomes a skin scent. And then you're going to move on from there. Good stuff. Good quality, dupe for what it's worth. And overall, I'd give it like an 8.25. It's really good for what it is. Next up here, we're going to talk about this one here because now I want to start getting into this DNA here. This got a lot of flack last year. This was probably I think this was the most hyped fragrance to come out for like Middle Eastern dupes. And it got a lot of flack because a lot of people thought, man, this was going to be like a Creed Absolu or a mixture, a concoction of stuff. But it came out, it got a lot of flack. It got a lot of flack because, Fragrantica is a lot of trolls and stuff like that. So you do have to watch here whenever you're going there for some information on stuff. But now it's starting to come around. You can definitely tell that people are beginning to like this scent a lot. One, because it is a projection monster and a longevity beast, pretty much. I don't like to use the term like beast mode in its longevity here, but it really is. It's really good for what it is. It is Rusasi Hawass Black. And before I even drop this thing, I have to take the cap off of it here because if I click the cap on here, the collar will come off with the cap and get stuck in the cap. This stuff is fantastic for what it's doing. Now, what is it doing? This is not really in the Aventus vein. It steals some stuff from Aventus, but this is a Hachivat. This does something on the market here that nothing else does as good as this, which is copy Hachivat. And hey, for what it's doing, it's really good. I had to kind of come around to this because it is really strong. The only thing that I would say compared to Hachivat that this does not get is it doesn't get that sparkling, citrusy opening. This is more of a earthy, rindy, pineapple, grapefruit, bergamot style of like rindiness. So definitely not as like fresh forward as some of these other ones that we've gone over, or fruity forward, but it's still citrus dominant, still really good, woody, earthy in the dry down, fantastic in longevity and performance. I would personally give this a 9. This is probably something that I will probably buy again. The only thing that I will warn you guys on, and I'll put it up here, you can see the contrast of juice to the wall behind me. This stuff, do not spray on light colored clothing. It will stain it 100%. Like, I have a hard time believing that this is an EDP concentration And this batch is from September of last year, so it's not even had a year yet to like macerate. But if I shake that juice up and you look at the bubbles here up top, that little like fizziness here, but if you look at the bubbles moving in the juice, they are not moving that fast, which means I have a hard time believing this is, 80% volume, but who knows? Who actually knows? I would give it a 9 for what it's doing. It's doing what it's doing really well, but it's kind of 80% Hachivat, 20% Aventus. It's not really in that vein of Aventus. Now, we're going to go over another one here that's kind of a mixture of the two. And personally, if I've had this one a little bit longer, I've only had like 6-7 wearings of this would probably on average be my most complimented fragrance in my collection, especially out of these. I will say that. So it is Off-Non Supremacy's Not Only Intense. I was a little bit late to this party here, but it's another Hachivat Aventus style, fragrance. It does what it does really, really well. But I will deduct a point, a half a point here. There's one thing that I got to pick on with this fragrance, and maybe they'll come out with another one, another flanker in the line. We'll see. We'll wait and see. The musk. In the last 2 hours of that dry down, you can tell the musk quality is not quite up to par that you're getting in the opening. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't get so off. It's not off-putting, but it's just, you can tell it's there, but it's definitely not as good as what it was whenever you first apply this. And some musk in the dry down here, it can be like that at times, but I don't get that from anything else in this line or anything else from Off-Non, really. So I'm going to give this a 9.5. It is really good. This is also another longevity beast. Projection is pretty good, I would say, for the first 2 hours that you have this on, because it is an extrait. So fantastic stuff. I would say this is more 60 to 65% Hachivat, and then 35 to 40% Aventus. This is taking a little bit more from the Aventus DNA and kind of mixing it in. Fruitier take. Excuse me. Fruitier take on the DNA here, though, still. Allergies are getting the best of me right now. Another one that's similar to that, but I would say in the inverse, is Dumont's Celerio Oros. Now, personally, in the line, this is probably the best one. It's also more expensive, though, than the other two here from Dumont. I would say this is more 60 to 65% Aventus, and then 35 to 40% Hachivat. It has a little bit of that, oak moss dominant dry down here. But the one thing that this does really well, actually, I will give this to this scent here, is, again, good performance, good longevity on this. Not as beastly as Hawas Black and Not Only Intense, but still really good for what it is. Now, this is $50-ish, $45 to $50-ish for 100 ml. So it is a little bit more expensive than those. So keep that in mind. But the one thing that I will say with this is the Lily of the Valley in this gives it I don't want to say it's a creamy, watery nuance to this, which I really like. I really enjoy this a lot. The only thing that this gets points deducted for is that price point. I think it's a solid 9 out of 10. I think it's a good wear. I think, you can pick up any of these and they're going to be a good wear for almost all year round, essentially. But fantastic. More apple forward. You do get a pineapple accord in the opening here, but it does not last very long. Both of these are more like apple forward. You get like a pineapple accord in the opening, then you get more of an apple forward style of the DNA. So keep that in mind if you want like a pineapple dominant one, whereas like this is definitely pineapple and birch dominant. A little bit of smokiness, but not super smoky. Whereas I would say these two are a little bit more smoky in that aspect because of that birch tar. So I would keep that in mind too. So I give this a 9. It's solid for what it is, but it just loses points here because is it worth double the price or $20 more worth the price than anything that I've gone over? Debatable. I will say this here. So if we're comparing these two, this makes this redundant. That's just the way it is. So unless you're going to pick up the 200 ml of this does the DNA better than this. It lasts longer than this. It projects better than this. So keep that in mind. But it's a 9. Now we'll go over the EDT here for Club de Nuit. I do not have a bottle of it. I actually ended up purchasing a bottle of it last summer because I wanted to get my nose on the DNA. And it got delivered here. Bottle was completely broken. I salvaged some of the juice here and did not like the scent very much. Now, my nose was like relatively new to the game, so that might have been a problem with it. But I never really went back to it. I ended up giving that one away. And a few months later, I ended up picking this up, which was the EDP version of it. Now, you can only get this in a 200 ml, and it's usually around anywhere between $40 and $50. It really depends on how the market is on it. I believe I paid like $44 for this at the time. And this does smooth out that lemon pledgy opening. You don't get that in this. Still citrus dominant in the opening, but definitely nowhere near as harsh. It's not harsh at all than the EDT. This, if I had to use words to describe this, it would be a unrefined masterpiece. That's just really what it is. Because you can tell here it's blended a lot better, but it's still not great in its like in the blend itself. It's great in the scent profile because it projects like a monster, and its longevity is pretty good. It's not as good as I would say. The longevity is probably better than the EDT. Its projection is probably less than the EDT. But I think it meets a good midpoint, and I'd give it a 9 out of 10. This stuff is really, really solid. And its value for price, like I said, 200 ml of this. This is my second bottle of this too, by the way. Like I ended up getting through like a half a bottle of the other one, and then I gave the other half away to a good friend of mine that really liked the scent. Fantastic. 9 out of 10. And then lastly here, I have gotten my nose on the X-Straight. I think the X-Straight is great for what it is. 70 ml for that $40, $45 price range. If you can pick up the X-Straight and you don't have any of these other ones, I would pick up the X-Straight 100%. However, the one that I always go back to because it's so well balanced and so well refined, the only problem with this one is it's around $60 usually. And that is Club de Nuit Limited Edition Parfum. This fixes all the problems that the EDT and the EDP had. No harshness in the top at all whatsoever. Fantastic. If money is not a problem, I mean, you're getting 105 ml of this for $60-ish. So keep that in mind. Fantastic. If money is no issue, I would pick this one up 10 times out of 10. 10 times out of 10, I would pick this up. This is the last one that we're going to go over today. So out of all of these, Which one would I personally recommend a person to go out and buy if they can only get one? One of each here. Now, for the Absolu, I would definitively say that this is the best one. Mass appealing, pineapple forward, floral, white florals, but in a masculine way here, still keeping that masculine edge. That's hard to do. That's really hard to do. So beautiful scent, beautiful scent. 10 out of 10. I would 100% get that if you want an Absolu DNA style of fragrance. And then if I was going for the regular Aventus, I would actually pick two out of here. If I was going for just the Aventus, I would go for the EDP of Club de Nuit Intense Man because of its value. Its bang for buck is really good. It is really good. If I didn't have any of these other ones and I just had this, I'd be fine. I'd be okay. I'd be covered for a long time. And if you do want like a twist on the DNA, you want like a little bit of that Hachivat, I would personally go out and grab this. Again, it's value for price. You can usually find this for anywhere between like it's usually going for anywhere between like $28 and $33 for 100 ml, usually about 40 to 43-ish for 150 ml. This is fantastic. Like I said, this is my most, like, on average per wear compliment getter. So if that's important to you, go for this. That's going to do it. That's going to wrap it up here for the video here. I know it went on for a little bit. I figured it was probably going to go on for a half hour. I was going to try to keep it under a half hour. I think we went a little bit over. But if you liked the video, please comment, and subscribe here. I'll be back for another video. I am not going to like upload every single day. I can't do that. I work full-time for a living here, more than full-time for a living. So that's just impossible. But I'm going to try to upload at least probably once or twice a week and talk about fragrances here. Remember, it's all subjective. And these lists are fluid. These lists could change at the end of the summer. And personally, what I like, you might not like. And that's fine. That's perfectly okay. And what you like, I might not like. So that's just the way of the beast. Variety is the spice of life, as they say. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.